Thank you for joining us. Our first topic for the day is our duty to make the world a better place. I am joined by 4 CFOs this morning. I'm going to start with the gentleman on my right. His name is Bothwell Mazarura, and he's the CFO of Kumba Iron Ore. Next to him is Craig Sumption, who's the FD of Hatch Africa, and next to him is Tromp, who's the CFO of Discovery Health. And last but not least, Walter Leonhardt, who is the FD of Coca-Cola Beverages. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for my panelists. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me this morning. Feel free to have your water. This is a casual chat, and I think our audience is really interested to hear exactly how we can make South Africa a better place. I think in the times of social media, bad news spreads much faster than good news, as you might have noticed. But it's not all doom and gloom. The world is still a good place, and South Africa, sunny South Africa, certainly is. I'm going to start with you, Bothwell, since you're right next to me.
Yes.
Let's start with, what does a better world or a better South Africa look like for you?
Didi, and thanks, and good morning to everyone. I'm in the mining industry, and our history as an industry in South Africa and even throughout the world is not a great one. We've had a lot of issues in the past. So for me, a better place, a better South Africa, a better world is where the mining industry is making a positive impact. And for us, I'm part of a group called Anglo American. I'm sure you've heard of it. We have a purpose that we have coined about a year or two ago, and it's about reimagining mining to improve people's lives. And for us, it is just that. All the people that we impact, our employees, our communities, our government stakeholders, our shareholders, when we impact them, we must leave them in a better position than they were before we started doing business with them. So for us, that's what a better world looks like. It's leaving that positive legacy and improving people's lives.
Thanks for that. That's actually quite powerful for you to say that you leave them in a better position than they were before. Mm-hmm. Craig, what is a better world or a better South Africa look like to Hatch?
Morning, Didi.
Good morning.
I guess I take a slightly different view on it.
Okay.
And for me, currently, a better world here is one with better corporate governance.
Okay.
And growth in the economy. Now, growth in the economy is the natural one. Everyone's talking about that. But unless we improve our corporate governance, we won't improve the confidence of the business community and the foreign business community. And without that confidence growing, we're not going to grow our economy. And we've had a number of corporate issues, and unfortunately, many of them are being laid at the feet of the accounting side of those companies. And that, for me, is a major concern for us. And I think we've got to change that around, get the corporate governance in place. People want to have proper law and order. People want things to be working properly. And I think that's what we've got to be working towards. And as large corporates, we need to make sure we drive in that process to help develop that, push it through back into the economy, and see what we can do to change from there.
Thanks for that, Craig. A lot of communication has come out to say that in a lawless environment, people tend to sort of do as they will because they don't know what the parameters are. So I think that's a good contribution. Thanks for that. Good morning, Brett.
Yeah, morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. So you come from Discovery Health, and please can you share with us what do you think a better South Africa, a better world looks like?
For me, I'm actually going to just refer to a sort of a quote from an author that I really enjoy, and I've adapted this a while back to something that really resonated with me. But what this author said was, he said, we say we love he actually uses city, but I'm going to use country in this context. We say we love our country, but we actually only love our experience of our country. To truly love the country means to make the country a good place for everyone to live. And that really resonated with me personally, because I felt that when you talk to a lot of people, it's all about what does it mean for them? it always comes back to self, self, self. And I think we need to lift our eyes a bit as a community, a business community, as a people, as a social people, and realize that when the lowest level of person, whatever that is, means or classified, is saying South Africa is good, then we've done a good job. It's not a few, it's all. And hence exactly what my colleagues here are saying, we've got to grow industry, we've got to grow, we've got to create jobs and stuff. But if you are asking a few people and you're getting only a few yeses from a certain demographics, that's not, to me, what is going to change our country. Ask the people all over, through all races, ages, and when they start saying that, then we know we've got a better country.
So it sounds like you're talking a lot about patriarchy there and people being selfless. When I was looking at this topic, the first song that came to my mind was Michael Jackson, Heal the World, Make It a Better Place. And that's literally what you're saying for you and for me and the entire human race. And that's the people who are at the bottom that don't feel necessarily like they're enjoying sunny South Africa. Thanks for that contribution. Thank you so much for your patience, Walter. Good morning and thanks for joining us. What does a better South Africa or a better world look like on your end?
My view is very similar to what Brett expressed now. Benefit of going last, so I'm going to repeat a bit of what he said.
Okay.
For me, a better South Africa is when we are more equal than what we are today. There are too much inequalities in our country. And there's a big onus upon each of us, because I don't think there's really anybody in the audience living under the breadline. There's a big onus on each of us individually, as well as on our corporates and the institutions that we work for, to have a sensitivity and to feel and look out for where we can make a difference. And we can make a big difference. We can make a big difference, both in our personal capacities as well as the organizations that we work for. We can make a monumental difference and we can change the country. We probably will never achieve complete equality, and I'm by no means propagating some kind of a socialist system, but we have too many inequalities in our country, and I think a better South Africa for me would be when there's a lot less inequality, equal opportunities. At least everybody should be able to start on the same footing. What you then make of your opportunities, some people are not going to grab all of the opportunities. Some people are going to grab the opportunities and more and make a big success of it. But for everybody to start more on an equal footing versus the unequal footing where we're starting from today as South Africans.
That's quite a challenge that you're posing there, to bring everyone to sort of the same place. But you said in our personal capacities as well as in the corporates we work for. Let's just have a chat to see what the different businesses have been doing. Before this conversation, Craig, you and I were preparing, and you were telling me what your business has had in place. Let's just chat about what differences Hatch is making.
Yeah, Didi, we do a lot of work, amongst others, with companies like Kumba and the other large mining houses. And when those companies are doing a new mine or growing their mine in the area and generally out of the norm outlying areas, the local community wants to have involvement, the local community wants to get some benefit.
Right.
And we've been working with our clients to find the right benefit for that local community. One of our recent projects in Polokwane, we helped refurbish the library in the area there. And that really is because we do have that passion for education. Education literacy is one of those key building blocks of any economy. And to refurbish the library, to encourage people to go there and read, for us was vitally important. Closer to home, our office is on the doorstep of Alex. So we have been working with an organization, Rays of Hope in Alex. Again, as opposed to going and just doing our own thing, find a reputable entity that has been working there, they've been there 15 years, and help support that's already there. They've got a program, and you just guide and support that. And together with them, we are now looking at our young professionals in our business running a Saturday computer training school. So it's not just from a company perspective, but also to get some of the staff involved in what we are doing with the local communities and where we're at.
That's lovely. So basically what you're saying is Hatch has gone into the rural communities to get education up there, and also in the peri-urban areas, we'd say, Alexandra Township. That's really great to hear. But you did say you work with mining houses. Let me come back to you, Bothwell, since we started our conversation. What are you doing in the mining industry to sort of change the communities that you operate in?
Okay, so in the mining industry, we regulated this various acts that regulate us. There's the mining charter that sort of looks to prescribe what it is that we need to do in our communities. We have social and labor plans and so on. So, we comply. But a few years ago, we challenged ourselves to say, how can we make more meaningful contributions to the communities that we live in, over beyond just compliance with what the mining charter or any other legislation wants us to do. I took a look at my financial statements and I realized that my discretionary spend, in other words, money where I can decide who I want to spend it with, on an annual basis, about 14.5 billion rand.
Okay.
And then we looked through that and we said, how much of that is going into our local communities? How much is being spent in our local communities? It was very little. It was less than 100 million rand. And then we said that picture has got to change. So we went on a specific drive to develop local businesses and local industries beyond just the usual that you get, people coming in to do your landscaping or do a catering contract. We wanted people involved in our core business, in our core mining business. And we've been on that program now for 2 years. Last year in 2018, we gave ourselves a target that we need to spend 1 billion rand with local businesses. We exceeded that. We spent 1.4 billion rand with local businesses. And this year for 2019, our target is 2 billion rand, and we're well on our way towards that target. And we're not going to stop there. I mean, next year, it's probably going to be a 3 billion rand target. And that's what we feel is going above and beyond compliance and making a meaningful contribution, creating businesses that can last far beyond us being there and mining in that area. And that's meaningful contribution, meaningful money going into the local community.
Thanks for that. So it says that you're taking those funds that you have available and putting them into your corporate social investment. That's good to hear. Gentlemen, I'll go back and let's talk about Coca-Cola beverages. As much as we like to have a coolie, let's see what those coolies are doing in our environment. What has your business done to sort of make a change in the environments that it operates in?
Yeah, indeed. We're a very large company. We operate across the country. We sell 1 million cases of cool drink per day.
Sure.
So because of that impact and because of that presence across the country, our performance is inextricably linked to the communities in which we operate and to the country's performance. If the country is going to be performing well, we will perform well. If the country is battling, then we're going to be battling. Probably the biggest successes that we've had with the programs in communities and with suppliers is where we've involved those communities and suppliers within our supply chain. And we've partnered with, and I'll give you an example. We've got a program called the Local Distribution Partner, where we set up a business with an individual. We set up an individual with a business. We give them training, we give them resources, we give them IT systems, premises, etc., and then they have to run that. And they distribute our products. And we've set up more than 150 of those across the country. The investment was about 120 million rand, and we continuously develop and train and nurture those individual businessmen and businesswomen to become strong business leaders in our communities. Each of them employ about 15 to 20 people, and so that the job opportunities that have been created out of that has been in excess of 2,000, and they are successful.
Yeah.
They are successful, and they grow their businesses in such that our business grows and we both benefit. So the important thing that we found is when we can link the efforts that we are doing to improve a better South Africa into our supply chain system, that's when we're most successful, because we have access to market and we we can partner with those people on an ongoing basis.
That's quite interesting. And also because you literally reach national South Africa. There's not a spot in South Africa where one can't find a Coca-Cola brand. Just to our guests who...
By the way.
Except, I beg your pardon, Walter?
Except here.
You didn't quite get the RFP. Just to our guests that are standing, especially the ladies, there's some seats in the front. I had said when we started if you could enter from the side. So please do take a seat, just for jock purposes. We can't have people closing the doorway. Just for you to take a seat from the outside, not the inside, preferably. Thanks for that. So Brett, Discovery Health. We all know about vitality and all of the communication that we get to make ourselves better. But when you started, you spoke about being selfless. What is Discovery doing to change South Africa?
I mean, firstly, we would love Coke to close down because then that would help a lot of our diabetes patients. But
sorry, Brett.
that would make our world a better place immediately. So on Discovery, it's actually, we're really fortunate to work as part of the Discovery Group. Our founder and Adrian has always had this vision that businesses must share back. So notwithstanding the usual CSR stuff, which we do a lot of, our whole business model is actually built around shared value and in enhancing people's lives. Our vision is to enhance and protect people's lives and give them a better life. And so we have a model that was actually first coined in Harvard by Professor, I've forgotten his name now, but one of the famous professors in Harvard, called about shared value. And so our model is all about, if you engage in our system, we want to share the value back with you. Adrian really believes that businesses should share value back with their customers. So at the simplest form, let's take motor insurance. If you drive well, you get a discount back in your fuel savings. Hence, you don't crash. So that's a better actuarial surplus for us as a business, and you happier as a client, and the circle continues. And the same with health. If you engage in vitality and you do what you have to do and you stay healthy, you don't claim, it makes our business better, you pay less. So, for example, I get about 40% back on average on my health premiums for engaging with vitality, but I don't claim. So the whole model is, let's share the value of our business with our clients, and in doing that, we improve society and communities and our members. So that's our core purpose, beyond doing the standard. We've got a big CSR team, but the business model per se is that share value model.
Thanks, Brett, for that. So let's speak about the highlights. I'll go back to you, Craig. Are there particular cases that you've seen where you've had highlights from the spend that you've contributed?
Yeah, Didi, I think it's the real highlight is seeing the people that benefit from it, getting excited about it, and being able to learn, engaging with some of those people, and really seeing them changing their lives. For us, the spend is not just about spending. It's not about getting points. It's not doing it because you have to do it. It's doing it because it's the right thing, and you want to see that positive result coming from people who are benefiting. And I think the key highlight is seeing that joy and that happiness of people when there is something more and something available for them.
Walter, have there been highlights in the communities that you've been participating in?
Yeah. There are many highlights that I could maybe quote as example, Didi, but I want to take a bit of a different, I'm going to answer a different question.
Okay.
If you don't mind that. Over the last couple of months, I've had some disappointments.
Oh dear.
And as an organisation, we've had some disappointments with respect to areas that we've embarked on to help people, in my personal capacity as well, where things haven't turned out like we wanted it to turn out and like I wanted it to turn out. And, maybe let me be a bit more blunt, where the individual has disappointed us and, behaved contrary to how we thought and how we would have liked that individual to behave. And for a while, that disheartened me quite a lot, because when you've got good intentions and noble ideas and plans and you want to help someone, and then that person that you help are helping, doesn't live up to the sort of like contract that you've got, then that's quite a big disappointment. And I became disheartened by that for a short while. And then I had a very useful conversation with our group chairman, and he said, how old are your kids now? And I said, 19 and 21. And he said, there's your answer. You're going to get many disappointments in your life. People are not always going to live up to the expectations that you have for them or the ideals that you have for them. And I think for me, the message was that even when one has those disappointments along the way, whether it's as an individual or as an organization, and your noble intentions don't work out like you wanted them to work out, persevere.
That's quite interesting, and also that's quite a celebratory thing for you, to say you've overcome what you weren't expecting. I'll come back to you, Bothwell. A lot of publicity hasn't been great for the mining sector, and a lot of what you would expect for the mining communities to become. Perhaps it's a psychology thing where they aren't thinking that way, and you have to educate them from a life-changing perspective to say this is how you could be living a better life. What have you, perhaps you could give us an example, or perhaps you've had an experience in your own company where, as much as you're investing in those communities, the turnaround time for the projects you've wanted has not been as you would have liked it to be.
Yeah, look, so I think you will always have challenges. I mean, the program I told you about where we set out to develop local suppliers, it wasn't easy. It was challenging. First of all, building the capacity in local communities to be able to build the sort of businesses that contribute into the core operations is not an easy task. We're also part of a global organization, and that global organization leverages scale in terms of suppliers. So we do deal with large global suppliers. So when you then talk about localized supply, you do have to make sure that the large global suppliers build capacity within your local suppliers, form joint ventures, make sure that there's meaningful participation from the local suppliers. So for us, those are some of the challenges we had to get past, that notion that you can't get a competent business out of the local community that will be able to do the job. So it is gratifying when you see a local mining contractor that is owned locally, running the yellow equipment at our mines and doing core mining operations. So for me, that is those are some of the highlights beyond the numbers that I've bandied about. It's about creating real businesses, real value, and then the levels of employment as well in the local communities. I mean, last year alone, about 2,600 jobs were created through these local businesses. The local businesses themselves have organized themselves into a local chamber of commerce. It's called the Kamahara Chamber of Commerce. And so that organization and that you don't expect from local communities. What you hear in the news is local communities protesting and complaining about miners not providing services. So for us, it's not just about basic service delivery. It's about meaningful development in the communities. And that for me is a highlight, but not without its challenges.
Thanks for that. Just to touch on that point, gents, because he's speaking about job creation, but there are other highlights. What other highlights have you seen that your businesses have contributed?
On the job creation side, or just
as well, and with others?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, our model is around the shared value, and for us, to see the hundreds of thousands of lives that improve in their health, which has a massive impact on society and families and stuff, and drivers that drive better and stuff. So that in itself is what we live for every day. We really believe in that model. We believe in changing in lives for the better. We want our customers to love us. We want to be part of society and the community. We're not segregated. Business and society are not segregated. They're integrated, deeply integrated. And that's the benefit that we see, to see 500,000 people exercising that weren't exercising 2 years ago.
Right.
It's amazing. Just all the benefits I get from that. So there's I think you've got to have a deep purpose in what you do. You've got to find that purpose in what you get up in the morning for. It's not just to pay pay a salary. And I
Yeah.
think, that's what we believe in. We get a lot wrong, and a lot of the healthcare insurance is expensive. We've got to get that cheap and stuff. But we definitely do have this purpose, and I think that drives it. But you cannot de-link society and business.
Yeah.
It just doesn't
They
work.
need to work together. Craig, allow me to challenge you then. From the corporate governance that we started to speak about and the reality of putting those structures into place, as well as making sure that the business is profitable and growing in the communities, what corporate governance issues have you faced and how have you overcome them?
I think one of the challenges we have is managing some of the government approaches to things.
Okay.
How government approaches certain things does not always, in my opinion, align terribly well with
The
business.
private sector.
Brett's talking about business and community is completely interlinked, but government needs to be interlinked as well.
Okay.
We need everyone to be interlinked. Everyone needs to be working together. And I think we all know that we've had a tough couple of years, and that has created many challenges. Getting refunds from SARS was a nightmare. Sometimes it takes up to years. And those challenges have been very difficult. And I think many smaller businesses have struggled in that environment, have not been able to cope with those changes.
Okay.
We've seen a little bit of a change now. SARS has definitely made some changes of late. But we've got to get to that point where business, community, and government work together. We need to work with our clients. We need to work with our suppliers and partners. That needs to be, I believe, a major focus. Working together as opposed to the argy-bargy that often happens. We see President Ramaphosa having sessions with CEOs of companies. I may have missed it, but I don't recall seeing the Minister of Finance having a session with CFOs.
Okay.
Or where's Department of Treasury having discussion with CFOs? Where's more of that engagement happening? I think we need to see more of that government bureaucracy has been hindering and creating a number of different challenges in the business world. And that, for me, is where further discussion needs to take place so that we can try and reduce the challenges that exist in that area.
I'm noting that down so that next year's CFO and the finance endowment will make sure that government is also participating in this conversation. But do you gentlemen agree that it's difficult to get government to play in, and have you experienced any challenges with SARS in that regard?
Look, again, I'll refer back to the mining industry, and we've gone through a time prior to the current administration where we had a Department of Minerals and Energy and a minister who seemed to be at odds with us as business.
Okay.
And we were fighting, we had public spats, we were fighting over a mining charter. What I'm glad about, though, is that those times are gone. We have a new dispensation, and we're working a lot closer together. We've been able to agree a mining charter, which is by and large one that we all agree with, bar one or two contentious issues that are still being debated. But for me, we have seen a dramatic shift in terms of the way we work with industry, the way we work with the government. There's still a long way to go. Our business is a long-term business, and it's a business that relies on certainty of policy and certainty of regulation. And so, it takes, on average, about 14 years to start and build a mine until you produce. So these are long-term investments, and you want to do it in an environment where you're not worried that at the next election, with a new minister, the rules of the game are going to change. Because if you're worried about that, then you just don't invest. And we've seen that, the lack of investment in the mining industry, the lack of exploration. But I'm glad to say that that is changing. And I hope we get that consistency, we continue the engagement, and then we will continue to invest in the industry.
Allow me to be more specific. Are those changes that you are now experiencing due to a change of administration, or has the mining fraternity gone into educating the government as to what your needs and wants are?
I have to be honest, largely due to the change in administration.
Okay.
But also, I mean, as an industry, through the Minerals Council, which used to be called the Chamber of Mines, again, there is a lot of effort to engage at every level, at the DMR, at the ministerial level. And there's also a lot of effort to make sure that the other government portfolios that impact on mining, because it's not just the Minister of Mines we are concerned with, it's state-owned enterprises that provide the infrastructure we require for that. So we need to make sure that those are functioning. It's Treasury, it's how we deal with SARS and so on. So we need to make sure that it's not just the one minister who's passionate about doing their work, but there's coordination across all levels of government to make sure that they facilitate, they oil the economy to make sure that we invest and we are able to grow it.
Thanks for that. Walter, I'll come back to you. So we all know that we get penalized for sugar tax as much as sin tax for our weekend drink. What do you feel like government should be doing with perhaps the sugar tax to improve and work hand in hand with beverage companies such as Coca-Cola?
Yeah. So maybe just to dimension the sugar tax, it was introduced in April last year, in 2018, so it's now just more than 18 months. We pay this year 2.5 billion rand in sugar tax to government, which is about half of our taxes. Our total amount that we pay to SARS in a fiscal is about just more than 5 billion rand.
Okay.
So the sugar tax introduction last year was a big blow to us to a certain extent. Subsequently, we've rearranged ourselves because we have to make friends with reality.
Okay.
We can't fight it. And to Brett's delight, may I add that we've reduced in the last 18 months our sugar usage, despite our sales growing, by 30%. 30% of sugar that we've taken out of our products and rearranged our pack sizes, etc., etc. But coming back to SARS and working together with them, as opposed to fighting them, we have to treat SARS as a partner, and we do treat SARS as a partner. We can't fight with SARS. SARS is an instrument of government to collect.
Yes.
And we understand that, and we respect that, and we've got a very good relationship with SARS. We're not always excited about it, and, you know, I mean, 5 billion rand is a lot of money.
No one
We
is.
could use that for a lot of... In actual fact, the South African government, by shareholder earnings, if you view tax as shareholder earnings, is the majority shareholder in our company, by a long shot. We are now... We've been captured, right? So talk about state capture, we've been captured, right? So yeah, so 5 billion is a lot. We work with SARS. We've got a good constructive relationship with SARS and with the individuals within SARS. And the one thing that I'd like to close with is that the heightened focus on SARS' side with respect to big business and the re-establishment of the big business centre. In actual fact, I think next Thursday evening there's a function which the new commissioner, Mr. Kieswetter, is going to be hosting, inviting members from big business. We've certainly got different needs to individuals and small corporations. We would like to have one point of contact. It's very annoying when some clerk from Port Elizabeth, sends me an email about some document that they want, right? I don't know what to do with that. So, and we got multiple contact points across SARS. So the one thing that we are working with SARS to do better, more effectively, jointly, is to have one contact point between the SARS organization and our own organization. That already in itself is going to help a lot with efficiencies.
Sure. So I think what we've realized now is that how business is changing is that it's now including the CFO in how money is spent. Because previously, the CFO, the FD, was the guy who would either approve or decline. How do you feel that there might be future CFOs and future FDs within the audience? How do you feel that the role of the CFO is changing to change the private sector to be able to make betterments within South Africa? That's an open question. Anyone can grab it.
I can maybe have a quick go at that. I think that the one thing that I wasn't prepared for when I stepped into this role a couple of years ago is the amount of external engagements.
Okay.
So, coming through finance, being let's call it a finance professional, you get to understand management accounting, financial accounting, fixed assets, tax, all of that stuff. but there's little that prepares you for all of the external engagements. And I'm not just talking about, with SARS or with government, but there's a multiple of external stakeholders that when you're a CFO, you engage with them and you talk on behalf of the company, you make decisions on behalf of the company. And that's a skill that I had to learn very quickly. I certainly haven't mastered it, but it's a skill I had to learn very quickly. And there was nothing in my finance career that prepared me for the number and the complexities and the sensitivities of external engagements.
Brett, I see you nodding there with quite a stern face. Do you agree?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, one of the other things that I found quite taxing is just the amount of governance work, boards and risk and audits, and that is absolutely needed, but does take a lot of your time, and it's important, but it's tough. And I just think the CFO is such a brilliant role. It gives you such good oversight of the whole business, and also it allows you to be involved with decision making. And I think going forward, there's a lot of opportunities to be far more entrepreneurial. There's so much change. The jobs are changing. What is the workforce going to look like? All these exciting things, while balancing out the good governance and the good financial reporting and all of that. But actually, what's on all of our minds is, what is the world going to look like in 10 years' time? And,
Sure.
what are my kids going to be doing? And what should they be studying? And what is this generation? And what are these bots going to do? And what aren't they going to do? And who's going to be needed? So it's a very exciting time. And what do consumers want? What is the world going to look like? So, I think there's a lot of excitement. It's not traditional CFO work anymore. It's part of what is the future going to be like.
Bothwell, I see you
Look,
agreeing.
I couldn't agree more, and I think it is exciting. The accountant's role or the financial person's role, as we know it, is evolving. Technology is coming through, and it is exciting, because what it means is that it's going to free up our time, where we spent loads of time dealing with reporting, dealing with essentially looking backwards, what happened last year, what happened last month. If we can have the technology that allows us to free up the time for us to look forward and then contribute better to the businesses, look forward, be more involved in the strategy, be more involved in what's going to happen in the future of the business, as opposed to always looking back. And for me, that's exciting. And as a CFO, looking ahead, being involved in the strategy, intimately involved, not just there as to what are the risks or how much is it going to cost us, but being intimately involved. For me, that's an exciting place to be, and it makes the job a lot more fun than just looking at the governance and the reports and so on.
Thanks for that. So, as we round up this conversation, perhaps in the audience, people want to know what they could be doing to perhaps change their roles, become adaptable to the changes that their businesses are experiencing. And as finance professionals, what can they do to make South Africa a better place without just doing the numbers and sitting at their desk? Bothwell, we just spoke now, but I'm going to give the question back to you. Thank you for joining us in this conversation this morning. If you can just share what it is that you think other individuals within the private sector could be doing.
Look, my challenge is less about what you do at work. I mean, I'm privileged. I work for a large organization that's got the potential. It does impact a lot of people, employs a lot of people, and therefore the potential to make a big difference is there. But I think it all begins with us as individuals and what we do in our personal lives. The greatest assets we have as finance professionals is our expertise and our time. So for me, it's the challenge to say our whole communities, our societies, our churches, our schools, our NPOs are screaming for that expertise, for that help in governing those bodies, for accounting expertise. And for me, the challenge is take some time out, give some time back, get involved, make sure that those organizations are run properly, make sure that you give some expertise around financial accounting and controls and so on. And for me, that's how we build better societies, better governed societies, and better institutions. It's not just about the big world of business. It's about what we do in our communities, in those organizations.
At the last Moody's rating, South Africa was counted by a different set of categories for us to get our final rating. And what brought us down was our level of corruption. I think what you're speaking to there is by the accounting fraternity basically instilling more integrity into business. Thanks for joining us for our conversation this morning. Craig, you've been a sport. What would you like to give to our audience in parting?
Didi, Brett mentioned that the CFO has a broad overview of the business. And what comes with that is a fair amount of knowledge of what is going on in the business. And I think the responsibility that comes with that is to use that information in the right way and in a positive way. You started off by saying with social media these days, there's a huge amount of negativity and social media thrives on negativity. I think the challenge for us is to make sure that we are being positive.
Correct.
You have your moments, as Walter mentioned, you get disappointed, you get frustrated, that always happens. But to me, you've got a responsibility to use the information that you've got to make a positive contribution into your business, into your community, talk about the positive aspects that are happening instead of the negative aspects that everyone wants to talk about. Change that conversation around, look positively and speak positively with the correct, accurate information you have. You don't want to fabricate stories, but you can always find positive elements in something. Take those elements and speak about those as opposed to the negativity.
Thank you so much for joining us, Craig. Thanks for giving us that last bit of feedback. We appreciate it. Brett, just to close off, what would you like to give to our audience?
Sure. So, I agree with all the panelists here. I read a good book at the beginning of this year. It was called the Worry Trick, and this guy had done a whole analysis of why people worry, and actually the conclusion of the book was that less than 1% of the things you worry about actually come to pass. And I think as business leaders and as CFOs, you've got to give optimism. There's just too much negativity around. Most of it never going to come to pass. So for example, you'd wake up this morning and you would see immediately that there's load shedding now. And how many, I won't ask you to raise your hand, how many of you, your first thought was negative? And it's going to do this and that. So that's how we conditioned. Nobody, is it really a massive problem or whatever it is? So that's how we conditioned. So we've got to change our mindset. We've got to stop worrying so much as South Africans. It's actually beyond ridiculous. There are lots of issues at hand. We accept that. We're not nullifying them. But we've got to train our mind. So when I mentor people, I say the first thing I try and do is to stop them thinking negatively. You've got to stop thinking the worst is going to happen to you. And that just seems to be a South African trait. We're very resilient, but our default position is negativity. And that's not going to take us forward. And the next level of leaders are the people that are going to lift this country by thinking differently, and that will bring different reactions. So my advice to you is leave this conference today with a different attitude. Look around, experience the buzz of thousands of people, realize the potential, and leave with that rather than, there's load shedding, there's this. Let's change the narrative of South Africa. And I'm not asking for a naivety that this problems don't exist. I just don't think we can get out of problems when we're negative. So that's my charge to myself and to you guys today.
Thanks. I think we're going to start off on a very good note by being positive. Thanks for joining us, Brett. Walter, what would you like to give to our audience this morning in parting?
Yeah, leading on from what Bothwell mentioned about it starting with ourselves, it does start with ourselves. It starts with me.
Yeah.
It starts with me being sensitive, taking a moment out and connecting with someone, and maybe the guy that I've met a couple of times on the other side of the coffee counter at the Seattle Coffee Company that sells me a coffee in the mornings, with a friendly smile, connecting with him, finding out what his circumstances are. He wants to study IT. Maybe I'll pay for his education for 3 years, help him find a job after 3 years, and off he goes. Now, what an incredible difference is that in someone's life? They educated, they were sharing a flat balcony with a friend for 1,300 rand a month.
Sure.
Now they educated, got a degree, and employed.
That's awesome.
That's one difference. But being sensitive and taking the time out and connecting with people, what I found is that when I do that in my personal capacity, I'm so much more attuned to that in my corporate and work environment. And I think if we start with ourselves and we make a difference in people's lives, then our corporates, our institutions, and our government for that matter, is going to give us a better South Africa.